Hello everyone, it's Jose again, and in this video I want to talk about paraphrasing and why it's so important. So paraphrasing is a way to take a quote from one of your sources and make it more accessible to readers and yourself. So this skill becomes very valuable when you read a text and you read a text that has maybe passages that are very abstract or filled with words that are very jargon-like that maybe most common people won't understand. So by paraphrasing it and putting it in your own words, not only are you interpreting it in a way that makes it more understandable for you, but you're interpreting it in a way that makes it more understandable to your readers. So this is really helpful for your readers, but also in terms of making your argument. A lot of people assume that when you form your opinion, your overall opinion is what makes your argument unique. And I would say that when you paraphrase something, when you paraphrase evidence, when you interpret it in your own unique way and put it in your own unique words, that's really where you're making your argument unique. So there are issues that we can all explore as a class, right? And in those issues, people are going to form groups. So maybe group A will believe one thing and group B will believe another thing, right? So they'll all be of the same opinion. Now, how they get there, how they interpret the information, that's what makes their argument unique. Not necessarily the fact that they all are in agreement, but how they interpreted information they get there. And that's where paraphrasing becomes important. So a couple of steps in regard to talking about paraphrasing. You want to start with a signal phrase to introduce the author. So this is important because when you're paraphrasing, you're still taking and you're still using information from an outside source. You want to give credit to avoid plagiarism. So something like Pablo Freire notes the following, and then you paraphrase whatever statement you want to paraphrase. When it comes to paraphrasing, you want to use your own words. So if you find keywords in a statement that you like, change those words by either using a thesaurus or maybe thinking of other similar words to them, like synonyms. And then change the sentence structure so much that it becomes a new sentence that's unique to you. However, there might be times where you find a specific word or phrase that stands out so much that you really want to leave it, so you want to put that in quotation marks. And that's totally okay. You can totally do that. And then finally, include an MLA in-text citation. So that's helpful for readers who are trying to find the source where you paraphrase information. So here's a small example to show you what I did. So here's a quote I got from a book called Modern Romance, and it's by Aziz Ansari. And in his quote, he says, "In your text, your mistake just sits there, marinating on the other person's screen, leaving a lasting record of your ineptitude and bozo-ness." So ineptitude and bozo-ness, those are abstract words, and we could definitely do our own work to paraphrase them so that they're more accessible for readers and we have a better understanding of them. So here's my paraphrase. According to Ansari, when people read another person's grammar errors, it gives them an impression that that sender is incompetent. So I just really took these two words and I just summarized them in one word, incompetent. So here are some steps you can follow when it comes to paraphrasing, and this handout is available on our Canvas site. First, you want to decide whether you want to paraphrase a source. So if you have a quote that's already accessible that readers are going to understand and is just so well written and concise, don't paraphrase it. If you have other information and you think you can make a better interpretation or express that information in a way that's clearer for yourself and for readers, then paraphrase. Second thing you should do is identify keywords. This is really key to paraphrasing really well. You want to identify the keywords and the phrases of whatever you're quoting, or whatever quote you're using. And then by doing that, you'll start figuring out what the message is and the argument is that the writer's trying to make. And then right here, you're going to start drafting your paraphrase. So once you have your keywords and your phrases, you'll start looking for synonyms and alternate phrases, and then you'll start creating a sentence in your own sentence order that makes sense to you. You'll start seeing how those things connect, and you'll form your own sentence. And then finally, you want to cite your source. So I want to share an example, and it's from Paulo Freire's essay, Chapter 2, The Banking Concept of Education, from his book, The Pedagogy of the Oppressed. So I have a quote here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to paraphrase it. So I already know that I want to paraphrase this quote. So the second thing I need to do is I need to figure out the key words or key phrases I want to highlight. So I'm going to read the quote with you, and I'm going to highlight some things that stand out to me. So a careful analysis of the teacher-student relationship at any level. So the first thing I want to that stands out to me is this. Teacher-student relationship. That's really key to me. That stood out to me. So I think that's the topic. Inside or outside of school, I think we're still talking about student-teacher relationship. Reveals its fundamental narrative character. So this also stood out to me. So I'm getting a sense of the topic. Teacher-student relationship. It's a fundamentally narrative character. This relationship. So now we're still talking about the relationship. So it involves what? Okay, it involves a narrating subject. So the teacher is narrating. Okay, just like me, I'm narrating in this video. And patient listening objects, the students. Interesting. So this is very metacognitive to what we're doing in this video. So I'm the narrating subject, the teacher, and you watching this video are the students who are patiently listening objects. So think about how that makes you feel. I'm a subject, you're just an object. So as we keep going, I want you to form an opinion of sort of how you would analyze or interpret this quote. So the contents, whether values or empirical dimensions of reality. So I think the contents means, see, I'm already doing this right now. I'm already interpreting it. The contents, meaning the subject matter, whatever subject students and teachers are exploring together, right? 10 in the process of being narrated. So again, narrator, right? The contents in the process of being narrated, right? Become lifeless and petrified. And this is important. So I think when teachers become the narrating subjects and students are the patient listening objects, that process of education, that relationship becomes lifeless and petrified. So now I know the writer's opinion and I'm getting a sense of what he's trying to say here. Education is suffering from narration sickness. So the keyword sickness here is what is standing out to me. So I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to make a list of my keywords. You don't have to do this, but it's really helpful when you paraphrase. Okay, so after pausing the video, what I did is I just made a list of the keywords that stood out to me. And these are the words I'm going to use for my paraphrase. So now all I have to do is use these words, find words that are similar, like synonyms, and maybe use an online thesaurus like Google to create a sentence that puts all this together and shows a relationship for myself and for readers in a more accessible way. So I'm going to pause the video again just a little bit just to show you what I'm doing to create the sentence, because it does take time and it does take a little bit of work. Okay, so after pausing the video, I took some time to look at my keywords and I created the following paraphrase, which is right here. So I'm going to read it to you and have these keywords in mind right here as I start. So Freire argues that the educational relationship between a teacher and their students suffers. So I'm going to see how I took student-teacher relationship and I just put it right here in my own words, because too often it is focused on the teacher being the only one narrating or speaking about an educational subject matter, while students are left to quietly listen like objects. So this quote or this key phrase and this key phrase, I summarized it and put it in my own words here. This process, Freire points out, leads to a paralyzingly boring experience for students. So then this idea of lifeless and petrified, I didn't want to repeat these same words, but I did want to put them in my own words to express them in terms of how I interpreted them. So what I did with lifeless and petrified, I just went on Google, I put lifeless synonym, and I saw a bunch of words that I wanted to use. And the one that really stood out to me was the word boring, because I can imagine being in a classroom where the teacher speaks for an entire hour and students just listen, and how that might feel and might affect my motivation as a student or my attention span as a student. And then for the word petrified, I looked for another synonym, and I had a little bit of a harder time finding one, but the one that stood out to me was the word paralyzed. Paralyzed and paralyze. I could have done stupefy or stun, but I think paralyzed really stood out to me. So when it came to my paraphrase, I used both of them to sort of convey how I understood this text. Now, as you've seen in my example, I would like you to do something similar when it comes to paraphrasing your own quotes in your own essays. And if you're in my English 1 class for an activity that we're going to do for week 8. I hope this video was helpful and you are able to show me how you interpret paraphrase quotes in your own ways. Thank you very much.